I just had a huge mindset shift. I realized everything has two ways of being perceived. There's two ways you can look at everything. There seems to be nothing that doesn't fit into this viewpoint, this framework, or these two viewpoints. It's the idea of dualism from Indian spirituality or philosophy, that everything has kind of an opposite. There's two different sides of looking at things. And so the thing that sparked this realization for me, I bought a new pair of Birkenstocks. Those sandals with the cork insole. And if you know anything about Birkenstocks, they have that cork insole and they take a while to break in. There's kind of something behind this cult following of Birkenstock lovers or people who like wearing Birkenstocks and buy lots of them, that you kind of have to get through the pain of the break-in period to reach the gain. You gotta get through that break-in period of the cork molding to your foot, because it's already kind of pre-molded when it comes from the factory, but you gotta push through that pain to get the gain, essentially is what they say. And so I bought the new pair knowing this, going into this new pair of Birkenstocks with this knowing. And so I started wearing them, and they started pressing on my feet. I could only wear them like 30 minutes the first few days, but I'm able to wear them more now. But there was this one spot on the arch of my foot. It was pressing up pretty hard on the bottom of my foot, right? These two lumps on the cork insole were both pressing up, and it was hurting, but I just wanted to wear the Birkenstocks, so I'm wearing them around the house, stomping on them, while I'm wearing them, trying to press in with my thumbs the part that's pressing up on my foot. The rest of the sole has gotten pretty comfortable. The rest of the sandal has kind of molded that cork insole to my foot, but this mound, these two mounds under the arches of my feet are like really bugging me. So I've been pressing them and stomping on them and hoping that they would go down. And so I went to see my brother for an unrelated reason, but he is a Birkenstock guy. He's had a pair of Birkenstocks for years, and the same pair as I have, the style with the two straps and everything. And so I went down to see him, and I told him about a couple things. I asked him about Birkenstocks and this kind of thing, and I showed him, how somehow the soles get like imprints from your feet, like I guess the oil from your skin goes onto the sole. But then I told him, yeah, these are really bugging my arches. And he said, here's what he said. He said, it's a nice massage for the feet. And I don't think he knew that he was gonna instill some wisdom for me there. I think he just said it as a joke, but that was a big moment of realization for me. I just laughed at his joke, but inside I was like, whoa, that's a whole, perspective shift. That's a whole viewpoint shift. And that really hit me when he said that. So I had been worrying about these shoes not breaking in, trying to stomp it, trying to fix them, researching how to fix Birkenstocks, how long does it take, all this stuff. But then, you hear something, someone says something to shift your perspective. And if you're open to that perspective shift, even subconsciously open, it'll enter into your mind. Maybe something that someone says kind of plants a seed of that subconscious perspective shift in your mind, or it happens right then and there, kind of like a mini epiphany. There's I like to call them mini epiphanies, that we see something or someone says something that lights up something inside of us and we go, whoa. And it's a kind of eye-opening thing, That was a mini epiphany for me, seeing that I had been struggling with these Birkenstocks, but not realizing, oh yeah, it's also kind of a massage. It can be beneficial. There's always these two ways of looking at things. And so when you can, reframe these experiences, it's a beautiful thing. And so now whenever I put on my Birkenstocks, I just think of my feet getting a nice massage. And it's crazy because the pain and the aches that come with, breaking in these Birkenstocks and everything, it just kind of naturally turns into like the feeling of getting a massage. There's a difference between a feeling of pain or ache or hurt versus getting a nice, like, relaxing massage. And so when I reframe that in my mind, then, the energy around it changes, the vibrations around the situation change. And so my feet start just feeling like they're getting a massage rather than being sore or aching, It's such a beautiful thing. And the other time this happened the kind of first time I was really struck by this realization, this dualism in perspectives, the equal or not equal, but, opposite sides of perspective, a good view on things, and then a kind of, glass half empty view on things. So we went to a resort in Mexico. And before we left, I met this girl and, we kind of exchanged numbers, and we were going to go on a date when I got back after like a couple weeks of travel over there in Mexico. And so I wanted to bring something back for the girl that I met before we went to Mexico, like a little souvenir. And so we did this kind of bead making course with this kind of club group thing at the resort there. And you made little beads. You could make little like animals out of beads and string. And so we were working on that. And then a staff member, like a girl my age also from the resort, she was helping me make that little animal. It was like a little lizard. It was like brown and white. I love that thing, actually. That thing was awesome. But I made that lizard and she helped me make it. She really put her like energy and vibrations into that lizard thing. And so because of this, I kind of got worried that the vibrations from this girl that was helping me at the resort, and would kind of go into that lizard and affect this, the gift that I was going to give the girl back home that I was about to, go on a date with and everything. And also I was kind of worried because somehow me and this girl at the resort kind of had some sort of chemistry, you could call it, but, nothing crazy. Somehow we were just able to talk to each other pretty easily, and we'd see each other around here and there. But I got kind of worried that the energy that this girl put in to that little lizard would kind of throw it off, or kind of scatter the vibrations of the gift, or kind of make it impure or something, So then I kind of talked to my family about this. And someone said, I told them, the lizard, I'm worried that the energy of this girl is gonna affect the gift. I'm worried that this new girl that I'm starting to date will notice the energies in this gift from this other girl. And someone in the family said, but yeah, maybe it's a good thing that she put her feminine energies and love and, good energies into this gift to help kind of bring it to life and bring it to fruition, the creative energies. And that was another big shift in my perspective, kind of the first time I'd had a big perspective shift like that. There's the two views of things, the two kind of outlooks, and it's hard to notice when you're in a specific outlook. It's if you go out somewhere and it's, say it's raining on the beach or something. You go to the beach and it starts raining, and you kind of have a outlook like, oh man, why is it raining right now? Why is it raining? I'm at the beach. This sucks. The rain. It could ruin your day if you're in that kind of outlook. But it's hard to notice that you're in that outlook and there is an opposite outlook to that kind of viewpoint that you're in, right? It's hard to see from the outside. And so meditation helps with this. This is, becoming the observer of your thoughts, kind of stepping back from your mind and observing your thoughts, your outlooks, your beliefs. This is what meditation is good for. But when you can notice what outlook you're in, and then you can figure out the opposite. There's always an opposite. You can shift, you can make a shift. And so you might think, oh, yeah, I'm so happy it's raining right now. There's a forest fire not so far away, and that's helping out with that forest fire. Or, some other reason, some opposite reason. Oh, I love the smell when it rains. Or this is actually really peaceful that it's raining, even though I'm getting getting drenched or soaked. It's kind of a fun thing. So these outlooks that we have on life, they're pretty shiftable and movable. And once you start to kind of become aware of the fact that there's two outlooks, then your whole world, it opens up. It opens up. And I was having a lot of epiphanies about this, reading the book by Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi, and he talks about dualism a lot. There's always, opposite sides that, like I said earlier, the Indian philosophy of dualism. There's always two ends of the spectrum, right? You've got love and hate. You've got like war and peace, good and bad, And so when you realize this, when I realize this, I just start to choose these things that serve my vibration, that are authentic to me, that serve my spiritual growth. This has been huge for me. It's kind of like things just start aligning more when you become aware of this. You become aware of this thing that's going on. This bad, or not bad, this outlook that doesn't serve you. This outlook that doesn't serve me can be shifted into something that does serve me. You notice this outlook, and then you shift your perspective, you flop to the other side of the perspective. And this helps me a ton. Just having this totally different perspective. I actually went out the other week for a run, and it was bucketing with rain. And I went out for the run, and initially at the start of the run I was thinking, oh man, I'm gonna get drenched. And so I ran, and I kept running. And then I realized the rain was cooling me. I realized that the rain was like cooling me down, keeping me my temperature regulated while I was running. And so that was kind of nice. And it's kind of a different feeling when you're out running in the rain. It's a cool feeling. And, before that, I kind of avoided going out when it's raining a lot, like raining. It was bucketing. So I've always kind of avoided that. But I pushed through, and then my mindset changed. And so now I'm able to go running when it's raining. It's little things like that. It's little things like that shift your whole paradigm, shift your whole outlook. And so when my things start shifting, it's like stuff naturally just aligns. It's like a straighter path forward, because you're naturally aligning to your true nature, your true outlook, your true vibrations. When you can realize, the kind of the egoic mind comes in. When I realize the egoic mind is there, I take a step back, observing the thoughts, and I realize how kind of funny the viewpoint is when I see the opposite viewpoint of things. And usually the opposite viewpoint, if it's kind of a lower, kind of more negative viewpoint that I've taken on something, the opposite viewpoint is beautiful. It's like a whole other world. And so this is the dualism of your outlooks. You can have these kind of good outlooks, which are awesome, and then you can have these ones that don't serve you. And when you start to realize, when you practice meditation, when you do self-introspection, and essentially step back from the voice in your head. The voice in your head that's always talking. Maybe you have inner dialogue, maybe you don't, but there's always these kind of thoughts that are floating around. When you notice, oh hey, there's always this voice in my head, or I always hear these thoughts in my head. When you notice that, you become aware of them. And when you become aware of them, then you can do something about it. Everything needs awareness before you can do something about it. Awareness is always the first step in healing or, self-growth, that kind of thing. And so like Michael Singer was saying in his book, The Surrender Experiment, he was just sitting on the couch one day and he had this realization like, whoa, my thoughts, I always have this voice in my head. What is this voice in my head? So he tried to quiet it, and he was trying to figure out how to do this for a while. And he finally found some meditation, some Zen books. And, the whole idea behind meditation is like taking a step back and becoming the observer of your thoughts and your mind and your patterns. And so when you do this, you start to notice these dualities in your thought, in your outlook, your whole perception of things. I think my phone is on low battery or something. There we go. But yeah, you start to notice these whole shifts and stuff. There's this outlook that you have that can be totally transformed and shifted just when you become aware of it. This is the beautiful thing. And so when I've been practicing meditation, I'm meditating 30 minutes a day now, which is more than I've meditated ever. I think usually I meditate 5 to 10 minutes a day, but reading these spiritual books on Yogananda and stuff, like he's profound and he's meditating for hours and hours a day. So I've been inspired, meditating 30 minutes a day. And I'm just, I'm able to see my thoughts in a new way, in a new light. It's really profound. And when I see my thoughts in this new light, I shift. I can shift them. I can shift my outlook. And it's not like I have to make that shift happen right there. just becoming aware of something that you might have maybe a negative kind of outlook on, or a not so joyous outlook on, or an outlook that doesn't serve you, right? Just becoming aware of that. Your consciousness and subconscious will start working on that in the background, simmering away. The subconscious is always simmering, I like to call it. Things, the idea sleep on it. That's your subconscious working in the background. If you just let it out of your mind for a while, like if you're trying to remember a name or phone number or email, you're trying to remember someone's name, and then you stop trying to remember it, it usually pops up. That's your subconscious. So the subconscious is working in the background. So when you just become aware of these outlooks that you have, it's a shift, because your subconscious just starts working on them. My subconscious just starts working on these realizations, and they align with your true vibration, your true nature. I think the subconscious is definitely aligned more with a person's true nature and true self, their true nature and disposition as a soul, as a being. So this has just changed everything for me, this realization. I'm very grateful to have had these realizations, and my outlook on life is way different now. It's like, you choose the fork in two paths. There's a fork in two paths, and you choose the path or the outlook that serves you. You choose the Oreos or the broccoli, So yeah, I hope this helped.